Today we'll be discussing what will be the plot of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, Episode 3. And before we get started, I want to give credit to openmediahub.com. This is where I got the image that you're seeing before you right now. What will be the plot of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, Episode 3. I want to get this out there before the episode actually airs, because I wanted to talk about my thoughts on the matter, predictions, and I just want to see how accurate it turns out to be. So, in the trailer, I'm not going to bother playing the trailer. Well, maybe I will, but I don't think I'm going to play it, because I imagine that most of the people that see this video would have already seen it. So I don't see much of a point in actually playing the trailer. But in the trailer, we see La'an seeing a man that is a gunshot wound. He seems to have traveled forward in time, obviously. 200-300 years into the future, to warn La'an that there's been an attack in the past. Some kind of attack. And when she holds the device on her hand, she picked up the device from the man just right before the guy dies. Right when he dies, we see something happen. We see time changing around her, adjusting itself to, the ripple effect of the changes in the timeline that occurred from what had happened in the 21st century. Something happened that caused everything to change, and Captain Kirk is now the captain of the Enterprise, apparently earlier in time than he should be, because Pike is supposed to be in charge. Instead of Pike, it's Kirk. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a reverse of what we see in at the end of Strange New World Season 1, in which we see that that Pike remains in command of the Enterprise much longer than he was supposed to, and Kirk still commands the Farragut. But anyway, after the changes to the timeline takes place, she freaks out. I think she knows what happened, or she has a pretty good idea what happens. She goes to the bridge, and there she meets Kirk. Kirk never met her before, apparently. Or maybe he did run across a different version of her from his timeline, his perspective. But in either case, he's surprised to see her, as she is surprised to see him. And she's like, "What the hell are you doing on my ship?" Kind of thing. The same question that she ironically asked the 21st century man that traveled into the future is asked to her by Kirk from that timeline. So I think it's obvious that when she goes back in time, she must be going back in time to the 21st century with the Kirk from that timeline. It's not going to be the Prime Universe Kirk. It's going to be the Kirk of that other timeline that becomes captain of the Enterprise many years earlier than he was supposed to be. And so what I think is going to happen is they're obviously going to confront whoever caused the changes to the timeline. They're going to prevent those changes to the timeline from occurring, prevent this attack into the past from ever having happened. They repair the damage in some way, and then La'an returns to the future. But then the question is, what becomes of this Kirk? This alternate Kirk. What happens to him? Well, maybe he gets killed trying to prevent the attack into the past. Therefore, that's one way of getting rid of this alternate Kirk. Or he gets erased from the timeline after the timeline is corrected. I think one of those two things will happen. Which way is going to go? I don't know. Can't really know until the episode airs. Then we'll find out and see what becomes of him. But we'll see. So I think one of those two things has to happen, because this Kirk obviously cannot continue, or it's going to screw up the timeline. I doubt he gets merged with the Prime Kirk and then keeps the information secret to himself in some way. Kind of like, Christopher Pike and season 1 of Strange New Worlds decided to keep what he had seen, his other self, the perspective of his other self, like for example, what the Romulans actually look like. He's keeping that to himself because he doesn't want to change the timeline. He decided he's going to stick with the timeline, stick with the fate that's been assigned to him that he discovered in season 2 of Discovery. Are we going to be seeing something like that with the Kirk, of that alternate timeline getting merged with the Prime Kirk? I doubt that. And really, we only see mergences like that really, and like in Star Trek Voyager, when the different versions of Praxton, I think that's his name, the time traveler, different versions of him get merged together by the people enforcing the temporal prime directive, the laws about time, the laws regarding time travel in Star Trek Voyager. Haven't seen an episode in a while, so I'm not exactly remembering everything, but I think that's pretty much how it went. So anyway, I don't think we're going to be seeing anything like that here. I'm still sticking with one of those two possibilities being most likely what's going to happen with this alternate Kirk early on. There's a lot of people out there complaining about this, the actor playing Kirk. And some of them will often say, and I've seen some of this in Facebook Star Trek groups and other places online, he has a Jim Carrey look and he doesn't really look like William Shatner's Kirk. Obviously, he looks very different from William Shatner's Kirk. I think the actor that played Kirk in the J.J. Abrams three films, Star Trek 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond, I think that Kirk is much closer to the William Shatner look than this Kirk. I think the hair is okay, and I'm fine with him. I think he's okay, but if I'm going to be frank, I think they could have done a better job picking another actor. There's got to be someone else out there that looks a lookalike that could fit, or a believable impression of a young William Shatner, or the Chris Pine look. Either look would be good, but that's not what we're getting. We're getting Paul Wesley, which a lot of people are joking about. It's like, that sounds like a Wesley Crusher. I think I highly doubt the Star Trek Strange New Worlds producers and the people in charge of it didn't think about that when they were picking him out. They probably laughed at that. But I really don't care. As long as the plot is good, I can get down with it. I think Paul Wesley's Kirk actually fits the atmosphere. Like, he fits what the new Spock, everybody else in the show. I think he fits the look, if you get my meaning. Like, he feels right for the show. He may not quite satisfy everybody when they want the Strange New Worlds Kirk to look like the original Kirk as close as possible, but he does seem to fit the aesthetics, the design, the feel of it, if you get my drift. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close tonight. I think I've given enough thoughts on the matter. One thing that I am curious about is if this has anything to do with the temporal Cold War. And I doubt I'm the first person to suggest that maybe Daniels could have something to do with this. He could show up and help fix this, but I doubt it. It looks to me that everybody right now wants to stay away from ever using a Daniels character again, even though he's supposedly from the 31st century. Nobody wants to use Daniels again. They want to keep him separate. Like, okay, he appeared in Enterprise, we can't have him appearing in other aspects of the franchise. And I do have my thoughts on a temporal Cold War, but I do want to cover later. Because there's a lot of what I believe to be inconsistencies that creates a problem for trying to understand and rationalize the conflict that we see in Star Trek Enterprise. But anyway, I'm kind of veering off topic there, so I'm going to talk about that another time. I'm going to close out for tonight. I'm going to get some more thoughts on this later, because I really haven't really covered my thoughts on Strange New Worlds very much. So I want to cover more of my thoughts on that